I have my favorite event centerpiece recipe here today. This is the base of it that started, and it's my favorite because it's a great price point. I sell these for $75 a piece, and that's including just like a plain cylinder. That cost is included, so they can keep those. So obviously if you were doing rental containers, you could switch that out, but the recipe is just really great. And one of the reasons why I sell it so much is because each of the ingredients comes in lots of different colors. So this particular client actually wanted this basic design with a touch of peach added. So we're pulling that with a white O'Hara that has that peachy center and then some peach stock. So let's say we had a client who wanted to scale this to yellow or something. We could easily make these yellow spray roses, add in a white daisy instead of the white palm, and maybe like a buttery stock. So it's a really great base design to make amendments to without changing the price. So I'll show you the very simple base that I do. I usually use 1 or 2 pieces of ruscus depending on the length that I have, and I'll start out with it in my hand and just clip away a little bit of it until I have 2 to 3 pieces in my hand, and then grab my hydrangea and nestle that in there. Cut about 3 to 4 inches of bind wire. I don't do this super tight because I like to be able to adjust. Make sure that my ends stay flared to make like a little tripod, teepee situation. Cut, split the stem of my hydrangea so that it takes up more water, and then I just cut it until it sits down on the rim of the vase. My next insertion are my 2 white majolicas, and sometimes you get one that's a little bit smaller, and then sometimes you get a healthy one. So I try to mix it up just so that the recipe stays kind of consistent. Layer 1 off to one side. Cut this down. And if I'm making a bunch of these, I do not waste my time picking through the petals. That's something that one of my helpers can do at the end. This just helps me go really quickly through to get all of my flowers inserted first. Okay. So next I'm adding my button palms, cutting these down and adding them in around the rim, so everything's staying really low on the outside of that hydrangea, and I'm making it kind of more of that oval shape, so it has, you know, 2 longer sides. You can make it round if that's what your customer prefers, but this is your base, and I typically will do these like 1 to 2 days ahead of time and then add some of my more tender flowers in closer to the event date. When you're doing a garden-y style design like this, each one is going to be a little bit different, so I try not to get too specific about my placements here, but the rest of this recipe is 2 stock, 1 garden rose, and then I finish it off with usually 2 different little fillery textures. So we're going to do 2 pieces of astrantia and 1 or 2 pieces of like a chamomile, matricaria, something like that. You could easily sub that to a wax flower, limonium, solidago, anything to fit your palette. And then I always like to come back in with a cheap little greenery texture, and spring rye or plimosa is my go-to for this. This just helps fill it out and give it dance anywhere where it's lacking. So I'll come through with usually my one large focal flower and just find the spot that needs it the most. This side actually looks pretty good to me, whereas this side feels a little empty. So I'll just turn this around, nestle it in here at the bottom, and then shoot my 2 line flowers out the side, one a little bit higher than the other. Then I'll come in with my astrantia, noticing here a little bit of an empty pocket that I can fill. And then taking some of this other texture to the other side just to give it a little bit of interest. And then I will pull it up through the top. One thing that I like about this astrantia is that you can actually use it sort of shorter and more clustered as a dense patch, or you can leave it be a little bit longer and let it just be like a floaty textural moment. Cute. All right, so there we have it. This is the finished piece, and for $75, it's really nice. You see premium blooms with the spray roses, the stock, the hydrangea, and then of course that pop of a garden rose. Even just one really does make a big impact. And like I said, I love this because not only is it a great price point, but it really is a customizable base design to any color palette that you're working with.